applause.
All right, so good evening, everybody. All right, so we have to do some sword drills. Y'all ready to do some sword drill action? We only added 5 books last week. Remember what I called those 5 books? Anybody remember what I called them? They were prophets, I'll give you that. No. The major prophets, yes. They're not real clever. Sometimes the theologians are just a little, just like, not creative whatsoever. So that's just the way it is. So before we do the sword drill, though, what I want to do is I want to start encouraging you all, starting here real soon. I think it's April, was it 1st or 6th? What was the date again for the lip sync? The sign-ups? 8th. Okay, I was off by a lot. So April 8th is going to be the sign-ups for a lip sync battle. I'm going to give you just some real brief details because we're still hammering out some of those. But we do want you to sign up by April 8th and start thinking about it already. And so we're going to have like individual category. We'll have like a group category. And then we always do a opening, closing act. We're not sure like where we're going to put that, but we're doing it a little different this year. This year, we're going to be having you guys do the same song. And so we're also this year wanting to make sure that we're focusing more on the actual lip sync part of it, not so much the choreography, even though you can do choreography, but just mainly like we want to make sure your lips, it's called lip sync, so we want to make sure you're syncing your lips to the words. So any of y'all can be a part of it. We'll also end up opening it up to the church, but there will be categories. So like there'll be individual and group, like winners, like so you'll be in that particular category and you can actually win a prize. Woohoo! So hopefully you guys are excited for it. It's going to be fun. We're going to do it. We're actually doing it this year. Instead of doing our summer games, we're doing our lip sync in June. So that's going to be kind of the time frame that we're going to be doing that. So just know that's kind of the time frame. So, all righty. So with that said, I want you guys to look. All right. So are you guys ready for the last? I don't know, maybe we should just do, I don't know, let's do 5. We'll do 5 more, okay? Are you guys ready? We'll do Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, and Jonah. Say it with me. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, and Jonah. One more time. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, and Jonah. Now we're going to go all the way from Genesis all the way through those last 5 books. Are you ready? Go! Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st, 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah.
You guys are awesome. Okay, now I can pick out of any one of those books. Are you ready? Hold your swords loud and proud in the air. This is your sword. Hold it high, everybody. Hold it high. If you want to go higher. Okay, this is a safe verse. 1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 1. Go! Come on, everybody needs to be doing it. If you do not have a Bible, we will get you one, but everybody needs to be doing it. Good job. Good job, good job. Are you ready? Here's the next one. I want everybody's book up in the air. Everybody. Do you got another Bible somewhere? We got somebody, a student who doesn't have a Bible. Yeah, go ahead. One of the mentors. Either Angel or me, y'all don't have a Bible. So, okay. Who, Hendrix as well. Hendrix, you can't hold up your chips. That just doesn't count as the sword of the Lord. So, all righty. And this is going to be, get ready. I'm not going to do that one. We'll do this one. Okay. Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 3. Let's try that one again. Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 3. Oh, we didn't go to Zephaniah, did we? Good thing you guys stopped me, because look at me, I can't even get that right. That was a test, actually. I knew that we didn't do that. Oh, I'm such a dork sometimes. Or all the time. I'm good with that, though. Okay. Let's do this one. Yeah, we'll do this one. All right, let's do instead of Zephaniah. Oh, let's see. Let's do this. Hosea chapter 14, verse 1. Hosea chapter 14, verse 1. Go! Just the students this time, just the students. If you got it, you got to stand up.
Return Israel to the Lord your God. Your sins have been and may your downfall.
Nice. All right, now it's on to Psalm chapter 104. Hold on. Verse 13. 104, verse 14. Okay. I say 13? You're right, I did. See, I was supposed to be in charge up here, but I'm not, apparently. So let's try it again. Let me say it, then you say it. Psalm 104, verse 14. Good night. No, I said 13 that time. Even if I change it, I don't care. We're doing 13. Psalm 104, verse 13. Just go with whatever I just said. Go! You guys have no idea how hard it is for an ADD person to do something like this.
He waters the mountains from his upper chambers. The land is satisfied by the fruit of his womb.
Yes, except we said 14. Just kidding. Just kidding. All right, so last one. Let's see. I want to get a good one here. I guess we can do this one. All right. Joshua chapter 21, verse 8. Go!
So the Israelites allotted to the Levites these towns and their pasture lands, as the Lord had commanded through Moses.
Nice. Good job. All right, you guys did an awesome job this evening. Next time I'll have to bar Remy. He's just way too fast. I'm just kidding. That's awesome. All right, so tonight we're going to continue going on, and we're going to continue talking about our, we had you guys basically come up with a list of sermons, talks you guys want us to talk about, so we're kind of working our way through that. Last week we talked about John 3:16. If you want to see that, we're recording all of these now. And so, which reminds me, should I make sure that I stay about center-wise here? Because if I walk okay, we're good? Okay, good, because I hate standing in one place. All right, so the way this is going to happen not the way this is going to happen. Let me just tell you what we're going to talk about tonight. So somebody put on that list, dragons in the Bible. So tonight, we're going to talk about dragons in the Bible. Sound good? I need some kind of reaction from you guys. I would think that you guys are all just sleeping, and I don't want you to sleep. So this is actually a really fascinating look at things, okay? So what I want you guys to do is first tell me what you know about dragons in the Bible. I'm just curious. I'm curious. What do you think, Hendrix? Never mind, never mind. All right, what you got? Wait a minute. I think you're the one who wanted to do this talk. If you know a bunch of stuff, I'm just going to bring you up here, and I'm going to have you speak. Okay, sounds good. If you know more than me, though, I am going to bring you up here. I'm just telling you that right now. Just kidding. No, go ahead. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Any thoughts? So dragons. You might be surprised to find that dragons. That terminology is actually used quite a bit, but not in the translation you probably have. How many of you have the King James version? Just not the New King James, the King James version. Who has one of those? Anybody have one of those here tonight? So all right, you got one, Taryn? So if you took Taryn's Bible, you would end up seeing the word dragon all over the place. Like it is just all over the place. And there's a reason for that. And this is really important, like historically. So for a large reptile during that time period, they called them dragons. So King James, when he ended up, when he was commissioned, or when King James commissioned rather these scholars to put together this translation of the New King James Version in 1611, that's during that time, that was the best word to describe that. So you actually see this word being used over and over and over again in the actual New King James Version. But the question is all those references, actually have to do with the dragons that we think of today? So I don't know. What do you guys think? Can we get like a student or a leader come over and break up these group over here? Because they all just keep talking back and forth. So if I could have a mentor come over here, I'd appreciate that. It's kind of distracting for me. You can come back over here. All right, so here's the deal. So the word dragon is actually used several different times. It just is. And so, but when we break it down and actually break it away from the King James Version, in fact, I don't know if you guys knew this, in 1841, and this is important, okay? Because I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound a little weird at first, so just hang in there with me. I mean, some of you will think it's weird, some of you will be tracking, I think, but some of you might be like, what in the world is he talking about? So, entering into the discussion of dragons comes the discussion of dinosaurs. It just does. It just automatically ends up doing that, okay? So when we start talking about this, and you'll see why. We're going to actually look at some passages. You'll see why I'm saying what I'm saying. And then hopefully we can make a connection between them and dragons. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but the word dinosaur is a pretty new word. Does any of you know, by any chance, when the word actually came around to being? Anybody? Do you think you know? Have an idea?
There's a song that
Oh.
sings it. Oh, it's like something 41.
Yeah, that's it, 1841. 1841 is when that actual word dinosaur came. So it's a fairly recent word. Like, I know for us, we're like, man, that's like over 200 years ago. Like, yes, I understand that's a long time, but when we're talking about language, that's a fairly new word. Like, it just came into existence not too long ago, so it's actually kind of recent. I would suggest to you kind of the premise of what I'm going to say for the rest of the time is that when the Bible talks about dragons, I think primarily it is actually referring to dinosaurs. I think that's actually what's going on. Now, part of the reason that I say that is that most of society comes from an evolutionistic understanding. They believe that things evolved over millions and millions of years. And so their concept of dinosaurs being around humans is non-existence. Because they think dinosaurs were around in a time period that there were not humans. A biblical, I believe, worldview says that humans would have been around the same time as dinosaurs, because when God created in Genesis chapter 1, and he created all animals, that had to have included dinosaurs. Now, there's many, many different things. I don't want to do a talk on dinosaurs right now, which we could end up doing, but this talk isn't primarily about dinosaurs. So, but because of that, you would have, I believe, actually had humans interacting with these different kind of reptiles, and that's what I think they probably were, just different kinds of reptiles out of the different kinds that are out there. The dinosaurs would have been some of those kinds. And of course, some of those would have been lost in the flood. Some of them would have made it even through the flood, because we have Job after the flood, and we'll actually reference him a couple times tonight. But we're not going to do an exhaustive study on it. But one of the things that comes up when you just look in the normal, like when you search into the normal, like your normal translations that aren't the King James Version, you don't really see dragon a whole lot. When you look in the New Testament, it even gets worse, except for one book. One book actually talks about and uses the phrase dragon over and over and over and over again. I think it's 12 times in 13, 13 times in 12 verses. I got it backwards. Do you know what that book is? Anybody? What you think? Yes, Revelation, actually. Good job. Yes, absolutely, Revelation. Does anybody know who is being talked about? And I just gave you a huge hint. Does anybody know who's being talked about in Revelation? Israel. I'm telling you, I just was going to have you come up here, Isaac, and teach this lesson. The Revelation, what I want you to do is I want you to turn to Revelation chapter 20. Now, I'm going to share with you, remember I told you guys that when I teach the Bible, I like to give you tips on how to study the Bible for yourself, okay? And this is how this works out, okay? So it works out like this. So with the Bible study method, we want to have the Bible itself to interpret the Bible, okay? So I would suggest to you that all of the references to dragon in the book of Revelation is answered here in chapter 20, verse 2. It says, he laid hold of the dragon, the serpent of old, who is and bound him for 1,000 years. So the Bible actually interprets for us, and when you look at the different contexts, it's very clear that the dragon that's being talked about isn't like some animal. It's some kind of being. And you don't find out, necessarily. I think you could piece it together in the other passages, but it's just very clearly stated here. This is a demonic or an unseen realm bad angel, the king of bad angels, if you could say it that way. That's probably not a good way to put it, but he's the leading bad angel of all. So, now with that said, we kind of clear out all of the New Testament. So the New Testament really doesn't speak of dragons outside of that. In the Old Testament, however, and this is something that you may not know, Isaac, that I looked in what's called the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. And interestingly enough, the word which in the Greek, in the New Testament, it's in the Greek and it's dragon. That's actually how you say it in the Greek. It's kind of cool. You have that like all over the place also in the Septuagint. So at least in 200 BC-ish, you had a bunch of people using that same terminology. So the King James folks weren't totally far off. But still the point is how they were using it to interpret. That actual Greek word, most of the time, has to do with a serpent. You'll actually end up seeing it in the Septuagint in Genesis chapter 3 when you have the serpent come to Adam and Eve. But the idea is just more of a serpentine type idea, if that makes sense. Now, what we want to do is we're going to look at some passages, because the idea of an actual dragon, you don't find exact word for word that an expression in the Bible that really corresponds to what we think of a dragon today. Yes, sir.
Actually, there is.
Where's it at?
Job. Somewhere in Job. I don't remember which part, but he gives an almost exact depiction of what we think of as a dragon.
Find that. I did not see that. So if you find that, we'll talk about it for sure. So if that's the case, then I stand corrected. But I wouldn't be surprised, because even if that verse wasn't there, I still would argue that that was still probably something that was a possibility. So even though we don't have reptiles that breathe fire now, I mean, think of the different animals that can make different chemical things happen. Like there's a beetle that literally could spit out like this chemical explosion. Like it's an actual thing today. So to me, it's like, it's just a different kind of reptile. And you look at the different reptiles, they do so many different things. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think that my personal opinion is that, and I think I could probably back this up, I don't know about biblically, unless we find Isaac's verse, but outside of biblically, I think it's pretty safe to say that dragons are through in every single culture that's out there. That's just a reality. You can go Google this for yourself at home. Just about every single ancient empire from around the world. It's not even certain areas. It's not even like the Middle East. It's like literally all over the entire planet. There is like pictures, there's paintings, there's writings of what we would call, or what we think of today as dragons. So if I was to guess, if I was to bet money on it, even though I'm not a betting man, well, kind of depends on the bet, I guess, I don't know. Like somebody shooting a hoop from behind the backboard of a basketball hoop from 20 feet away, never thought they would ever be able to do it. In that sense, I was a little bit of a betting man. Ain't that right, Connor? Where's he at? Yeah. But no, if I was a betting man there, I would tell you right now that I 100% think that that's the case. I think that there were probably some kind of creature that, not exactly maybe what we see, but it would have been more of a dinosaur type creature that we end up seeing, and that's why we have it. I mean, it's not just by coincidence. People just didn't share this as if it was some fun little thing to share. I think there's a kernel of truth in there. Now, I'm sure the stories and this and that are probably embellished. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not like, it's like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and they go off to fight dragons and blah, blah. I'm not saying that. But, yes, sir.
I believe what he's talking about is Job 40, 15 through 40, and I believe the end of 41.
All right. Let's see here. I think that is Job 40, 15 through 18, basically.
Well, it's 40, 15, all the way through to the end of chapter 41.
Okay, I am referencing that, but I think it's something different. We'll talk about it. You keep looking though, Isaac, because I would seriously, like I'm not even joking, I would absolutely love that. You have no idea how thrilled I would be. All right, what you got? 40. So Job 41. All right, so say that again. So Job chapter 41, verse 5 to 34. Oh, that's a long passage. His rows of scales, 15. Yeah, that could be a potential there. Yeah, no, yeah, that's actually really good. I am going to steal that now from you. I somehow missed that in my studies. It wasn't one of the words that normally was translated as dragon. That's why I missed it, because I did complete word study. So, yeah, I'll tell you what. I will study that passage and get back to you. So I love that. That's awesome. So, yeah, let me look into that. So, the word that normally is used, I'll just tell you in the Hebrew, is tanin or taninim, depending on the form of it. And that's only used like 6 times in the entire Hebrew Bible. And so that's probably why I missed this one, because it's probably a different word, or it's more of looks like it's more of an explanation of some creature as opposed to using an actual word for some of these creatures, which is why I would have actually missed that. So good pickup, man. Told you should have been up here teaching this. All right, so nevertheless, regardless, my contention would still be that it's some kind of dinosaur-esque type creature. I think that regardless, these creatures are just, they were actual creatures. I even think like here, like I would say, yeah, absolutely, this must have been some kind of dragon that Job and the people around his time, because one of the verses we're going to look at also talks about another interesting animal. We're here now. So I was going to do this next, but let's just do this now since we're here. Let's stay in chapter 40 of Job and look at 15 through 18 there. And notice what it says. Look now at the, what does it say? Behemoth. Bohematath, or Bohema, I think it's Bohematath is the Hebrew word. It sounds very similar to our English, so I think they transliterate. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but just in reading through the Hebrew, it was like, this must have been transliterated. But this is a certain group here. Look at now at the behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See now his strength in his hips, and his power is in the stomach muscles, and it kind of goes on. He moves his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are tightly knit. His bones are like beams of bronze. His ribs like bars of iron. The difference between this passage and the one that Isaac pointed out is, I don't know if there's an actual term. Did you find a term in there that they call it that, or is it just a description? Because I don't remember. That's what I thought. That's really good, though. Make sure before you leave, I want to make sure I get that passage from you. But in this passage here, we are told that it's called the behemoth. And it just drives me crazy that there are scholars that study this stuff, study Hebrews way better than me. Like, oh man, they know Hebrew like crazy. They end up interpreting this passage right here. And you know what animal they have come up with? There's two big contenders. Do I? A hippopotamus. Yep. The hippopotamus is one. There's actually another one that they usually use, or I've heard them use. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too. That's actually what caused me to go, let's take a look at that a little deeper. So, no, that's really good. But going back to the behemoth, the two animals that were actually talked about, the two that primarily, Cassie just read out of her study notes in her Bible, which, again, that's not the Bible. That's people who have put a study Bible together, so they give you the notes. That is what they usually come up with that. I want you to look at this description again. I'm going to read it slow this time. And you tell me if this matches either a crocodile or a hippopotamus. Look now at the behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See now, his strength is in his hips, and his power is in his stomach muscles. Well, maybe, big fat hippopotamus, Hold on. He moves his tail like a cedar. Have you seen a hippopotamus's tail? How big is that thing? Does that sound like a still? Is that like a cedar? That's not like a cedar. It's not like a tree. It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I guess you're talking about a baseball bat, maybe a cedar made out of cedar. No, just kidding. They obviously wouldn't have thought that here. So moving on. He says his bones like beams of bronze. Gotcha. His ribs like bars of iron. Now, this is describing an animal that is almost impenetrable. I think the descriptions given here describe something that you just could not destroy. And I would think it was something much bigger, something much stronger. I think this is one of the examples we have of during Job's day of a dinosaur. And certainly Isaac's passage that you picked out, I would concur. I would say this is probably a description of some kind of animal, probably even the one that we've been talking about, like a dragon-esque type feature. So I think it's there. And now I want to put this in context for you. How many of you know when Job was written? Do any of you know when Job was written? You have an idea? It may not sound like an important thing right now until I'm going to unpack it for you, why that even matters. Go ahead. What do you think? When do you think Job was written? 1,700? Nope, not 1,700 years ago. What do you think? Yes, I would say that it was probably 2100 BC. People date Job at different times. I think they're all weak argument except for the later date, which is that one. Or actually, it'd be the earlier date at that point. So 2100 years ago, did you know that that means that Job is technically one of the earliest, at least it's one of the earliest time periods in the entire Bible. It's during the time period of Genesis chapters 12 through about 25 period. We're talking Abraham time period. That's when Job was probably written. And the reason that matters is that during Job's time period, we're talking 2100 BC, there still were dinosaurs roaming the earth. That's kind of crazy to think about. I know it feels like really long for us, but technically that's not a ton of time ago that there was actually dinosaurs. It completely goes against the narrative that evolutionists say that, oh man, you have dinosaurs, and when there are dinosaurs, there are no humans. Well, there were humans, and I think they saw these. Yes, sir. Then how did the what? Yeah, so there's different answers for that. Actually, I'm going to answer that the last thing, okay, here in a second. So I will get to that, okay? All right, so last thing I want to look at is another animal that is talked about more extensively than, like I said, than the dinosaur idea. Look over and let's do two passages. Let's do Psalm, and then I'll finish up here. Psalm chapter 74. Psalm chapter 74. You're probably going to beat me there. If you have it, I want you to read verses 13 and 14. 74, 13, and 14. The word that you're stumbling over, and it's a difficult word, is Leviathan. Okay, and that is another, I would say, dinosaur in the Bible. All these things that we're talking about would be kinds of dinosaurs. Even the dragon would be a kind. And with that passage, like I said with Isaac, you'd have some confirmation that you even have literally a dragon-esque dinosaur in the Bible. Turn over to Isaiah. One more verse on this Leviathan. Leviathan, by the way, is actually used more times than any of these other things that we've been talking about. So this one is one that's definitely talked about a whole lot more. Leviathan, Isaiah 27. If you get there before me, let me know. It's verse 1. Isaiah 27, verse 1. When you end up looking at all of the references to Leviathan, like I said, there's 6 references and 5 different verses in the Bible. We just looked at 2 of them. When you look at all those references, you end up putting together that Leviathan was some amazing, giant, big, scary sea monster creature. Like they were like a sea monster type creature. Now, again, this is something that probably was, it was around during these time periods. Like even during Isaiah's time period, they knew about this particular dinosaur. Do you guys know when Isaiah was written? Anybody? Any ideas? What you think? When was Isaiah written? What you think? Let me ask Isaac since you guys have went already. That's a little bit earlier than I usually had heard, but that's probably okay. Dave, what does yours say? Yeah, that's more of what I have heard. Let me see, I want to see your Bible afterwards. I'm kind of curious because usually more conservative Bibles will end up giving an earlier date. So it's very interesting that's the day. I don't think I've ever heard that date before, but I have heard the 739 date, or right around there. So you're talking now. This is 739 BC. Okay, so for us right now, it's 2,800 years ago. And let me close with this because I've already went over a couple minutes here. So Ledford asked a good question. Well, what happened to them? And first, I'll just say, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I'll give you a guess, but it's just a guess. The very fact that we don't necessarily see them around tells me that they probably just aren't around anymore. But then I also go to something like the Leviathan. Is it possible that these creatures are even still alive? We just haven't seen them. I don't know the answer to that. You'd think you'd see something, though, with all the technology, all that kind of stuff, right? My best guess is that most of these dinosaurs ended up dying off, which is not abnormal. That happens, I don't know if you realize that, but we have creatures going extinct every single day. Like that is just happening. They have a list now that they track, and they're trying to help some animals from going extinct. But there are animals that many of them have gone extinct. Now, I would suggest to you that even those lists probably aren't the best in the world, because we've seen to where like something is supposedly extinct and then all of a sudden it pops up somewhere. It's like, and everybody's like, wow, we thought that thing's been gone for like 300 years. What's going on? You know, so my suggestion to you then would be that they probably, the vast majority of them had died off. I would actually put that in line with what happened with the flood. The flood messed everything up, including the actual environment itself. When you got that tonnage of water, and by the way, we're going to be going over creation and kind of going over that story, which I'm probably going to end up having James help us with that one, because he's definitely much more science guy, so we'll have him maybe help us with that one. But we are going to be going through that kind of thing anyway. Yes, sir, Isaac, I'll give you the last word.
So, turns out I was looking at Song of Solomon.
Ah, yes, that would make sense for the Song of Solomon. I was like, man, that's really early. I've never heard of it that early before.
It was Psalms.
Yeah.
Because my brain was working.
No, you're good. It's not a problem. I just was surprised because I never actually heard that date before. So I was just like, wow, I'd be interested in seeing what they say about that. So, because I'm a geek, so I like that kind of stuff. All right. So, anyway, are dinosaurs real? Or better yet, are dragons real? I think that they probably were, even if we didn't look at that verse that Isaac came up with, or not come up with, but knew. I think that they're there. I don't think there's any reason, there's nothing else that really accounts for that kind of thing. Certainly an evolutionary model wouldn't account for that at all. But the creation model would allow for something like that. God has created so many animals, so diversified. And as we look through these things, we see these different animals like Leviathan, Behemoth, and then that passage out of Job 41, there's these creatures that get described that they do not match with anything that we see on the planet today. So are dragons real? Yes. Are they around today, though? I don't know whether or not I could say a firm, yes or not. I don't know. If I was to guess, I'd say probably not. I just can't imagine with today's technology and how fast information moves that if there was a creature like this that we wouldn't see it. But it's a possibility. There's so much landmass that is not occupied by humans. There's so much, even more ocean that we've never even been, to the depths of, that who knows what else is down there. But I think it is definitely a possibility. But dragons, cool. That's one of the cool things about biblical understanding is a lot of these things that are really cool are actually true. All right, let's go ahead and let's have, who would like to give the gospel? Do I have a volunteer this evening? Isaac raised his hand. Come on up, Isaac. Which is weird because he literally is like, I was like, who wants to give the gospel? He's like, so I'm like, okay, he has this. Are you ready for this?